Hey, what's up, shitheads? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be doing a review of the highly anticipated MotorGoat V3. Now, currently, this bike sells for $25.99, but if you use the link in the description of this video and coupon code SHOOTTHECHIT, you can save 5% off your order. I've had this bike for a few months now, and honestly, going into it, I really wasn't very excited about it at all, because I prefer bikes that have a pedal-first approach. And guys, pedaling almost seems like an afterthought on this bike. As a matter of fact, pedals are even an option. That being said, I found myself having a ton of fun with this bike, and now this is kind of my weapon of choice. When I need to get around town fast or get somewhere in a hurry, I almost always grab the MotorGoat V3. But that being said, guys, it's not all sunshine and roses in the MotorGoat V3's world. There's some things I really love about this bike, and there's some things on this bike that just make me scratch my head and wonder, what the hell were they thinking? We're going to go over all that and more in today's video. Without further ado, guys, what do you say we get right into it? Come on, let's get started. All right, guys, here we are up close and personal with the MotorGoat V3. This bike is available in two different color options. This is the gradient option here, and as far as I know, if you order the gradient now, it'll ship as soon as next week, and this is July of 2024. And there's a gunmetal option. If you order the gunmetal option, it sounds like that won't be shipping till mid to late August. Anyways, guys, I'm actually happy with the gradient option here. I think it's a nice looking bike. It has the gold accents, the brown seat here with the nice diamond pleating on it. That's really not the heart and soul of this bike. The main thing that kind of sets this bike apart from most of the competitors in the market is the 2,000 watt gearless direct drive electric motor here. Traditional e-bikes have gears in their motors, which provides for additional torque off the line, but typically will have a lower high speed or lower RPM. And there's some things I really like about this direct drive motor. To me, it feels like a much smoother ride. It sounds different. It doesn't kind of like jolt you off the line as fast as those other motors do, but to me, this feels like a more smooth, quiet experience. I really do enjoy this direct drive motor. This has a 25 amp hour, 60 volt battery, which works out to be about 1,500 watt hours. Something a little different about this GOAT power bikes is they say they're 60 volts, but however, they're actually 63 volts. So this bike will actually charge up to 71 volts max, where your typical 60 volt e-bike will charge to 67.2 volts. So I don't know why they don't just call this a 63 volt system. They still market it as 60 volts. This is a little higher voltage than your traditional 60 volt e-bike. So I've heard varying opinions. Some people say they don't like the look at this. I kind of like the fact that it looks like a gas tank on a traditional motorcycle. That being said, there are some issues with the mount on this. So this kind of wiggles around, and I've actually added some high density foam tape to the mount itself to try and minimize the shake this battery can get. As a matter of fact, this battery will wobble around so much that I won't take this bike off any jumps or anything higher than jumping off curbs. I do like the way this looks, but I do wish it was mounted more secure. So that's one of the issues I have, but I do like the aesthetics. I think it matches the bike nicely. To complement the battery and the 2,000 watt direct drive motor, this bike comes equipped with a 60 volt, 50 amp controller, which peaks at over 3,000 watts. Now the display on this bike maxes out at 3,000 watts, but if you hit the throttle, it'll go right to 3,000 watts. So I don't know exactly how many watts this thing is putting out, but it hits 3,000 pretty consistently. The controller is mounted underneath the seat here on this little tray that's underneath, and it was just wobbling around all willy-nilly like when I got the bike. So I actually added a couple zip ties to the controller there to keep it in place so it doesn't flop all around because it was making all sorts of noise. This is one of the things where I say, I really like this bike, but there's some things on this bike that just make me scratch my head. This bike is a dual suspension e-bike. It has a Fast Ace 450 pound rear shock with stock. Now I've actually swapped that out to this 350 pound Fast Ace shock that you can order from GOAT for an additional $100 because I found the stock 450 pound spring to be way too stiff. I weigh 240 pounds and I felt like I'd hit bumps and I was not compressing the rear of this bike very much at all. So you hit a bump and I felt like it was always trying to push me back off the seat. So I got this 350 pound spring in the back and I do like it a lot better, but I feel like this one's maybe a little too on the soft side. So I have to turn the compression all the way up on this one and it gives a pretty acceptable ride. So I'm much happier with this 350 pound spring in the rear. I wish MotorGoat would give you the option of which one you want to come with this bike. This shock is fully adjustable, has your compression, rebound, and you can adjust the preload here by compressing the spring. So overall, this is a really nice quality shock. The front fork on the MotorGoat V3 has adjustable compression. However, this doesn't look to have adjustable preload. I've talked to a few people that have the MotorGoat V2, and it sounds like they had adjustable preload on their fork as well. But that being said, all in all, I'm not a fan of this front fork. It's not very smooth. It bottoms out very easy, and it's not the most adjustable. So I can't imagine the preload version is much better. I do like the way it looks, but I wish it had an air fork or something more adjustable. This has a Shimano 7-speed drivetrain that you'll see on the vast majority of e-bikes. Now, I've actually changed mine because stock, it comes with a 46 tooth front chainring. I've upped that to a 56 tooth from my Wired Freedom, and stock, this has a 14 by 28 tooth freewheel in the rear, and I've changed this to an 11 by 28. The stock drivetrain on this bike, you will start ghost pedaling around 20 miles an hour, which I feel like a bike that's marketed for people who want to go 40, 45 miles an hour, it shouldn't start ghost pedaling at 20. So putting this 56 tooth front chainring and the 11 by 28 in the rear has helped a considerable amount in the ghost pedaling department, where I feel like I can actually still get resistance on the pedals when I'm doing 30, 35 miles an hour. So I like this setup much better. I feel like they should either put a 56 tooth front chainring or a 60 tooth stock on this bike. This has a 33-inch seat height, and they say anyone with a 27-inch inseam or higher can ride this bike comfortably. I'm 6'2", I can ride this bike fine, but you're not going to get full extension on your legs when you're pedaling, so don't expect to be the most ergonomic when you're pedaling. Plastic fenders front and rear, and I vastly prefer plastic fenders over metal because they're much quieter. This bike has these 20-inch mag wheels, which I think are really nice looking front and rear. The front is a Innova 4-inch fat tire with a street tread, and the rear is a Innova 4.5 by 20-inch fat tire. I really like these tires, but these are a street tread, so don't expect these to do very well off-road. And hey, guys, ask me how I know. And let me tell you, coming from riding a bunch of e-bikes with knobby off-road tread, these feel very grippy when you're on the pavement, and I do enjoy that because, let's be honest, the vast majority of the time when I'm riding this bike, I'm on the pavement. It has a claimed weight of 95 pounds, and it feels every bit of that 95 pounds. As a matter of fact, I would assume this bike weighs more. I kind of thought this was a chromoly. However, this is actually an aluminum frame. This bike has a weight limit of 450 pounds, which is quite a bit of weight. 4-piston hydraulic disc brakes, front and rear. Now, I do think these brakes work fairly well right out of the box. They have a lot of grab to them. However, I have had some issues. After some hard braking, I would hear brake rotor noise, and I assumed my caliper came out of adjustment. So I'd readjust the caliper, and then I'd notice the sound went away. But almost every time after some hard braking, I'd start to notice that I would have some rotor noise. And then I looked, while I was riding, if you look down, you can actually see the rotor. And during hard braking, I was noticing the stock rotor, after it got some heat in it, would actually bend. You'd see the rotor have some wobble in it, and as soon as it cooled down, the wobble would go away. So I've actually replaced the front rotor with a different rotor and a different set of pads, and that seems like it's pretty much gotten rid of the issue. So guys, let me know in the comments if you have a MotorGoat V3, if you've noticed the same thing as well. As soon as your brakes get hot, they'll start making noise, and if they cool off, it'll go away. So I adjusted the brakes a few times, but the problem kept coming back, and now that I've changed the rotor, that hasn't been an issue. This brings me to another one of my complaints with the MotorGoat V3. I bought a different rotor for the rear. However, servicing the rear axle on this bike is a nightmare. That's due to a couple factors. The motor cable here doesn't have a connector on it, so the motor cable goes from all the way to the motor, all the way up to the controller. So if you want to take off that brake rotor, you have to disconnect this entire rear axle, take it off the bike, and chase this wire all the way down to the controller, disconnect it, and pull it all the way out so you can pull the rotor off. That's a lot of work to go through just to take off your rear rotor. And if you look here, if you take off the rear axle, you have to center it back in the dropout here. But there's no reference to if you're lined up or not, other than visually looking at the rear of the bike and gauging if the tire is straight or not. As a matter of fact, I don't think it's straight now. There's a lot of adjustability there in the dropout with the tire. So I wish they'd add some visual representations there, or kind of limit you with how far you can adjust the tire, because look, the E-Ride Pro dirt bike has a similar setup on the axle. However, there's some visual representations here that show you where the axle is seated into the dropout on each side of the bike, so you can tell if it's even. The Goat doesn't have that. So if you have to service your rear axle, guys, be patient, because it is not a very fun process. So my suggestions to Goat Power Bikes: change this dropout setup here so you can visually tell if your axle is seated straight in the dropouts, and add a connector to the motor cable here so you can service your axle easier without having to disconnect your entire cable from the controller. Here you see the Ronglon hydraulic disc brake handles. All in all, these feel like a nice quality disc brake. Nothing to write home about, but they function well, and they do have a lot of grab. Now, to turn on the bike, you need to insert the key, turn it to the right, press the power button here, hold it for a second, and it'll turn on the display of the bike. Goat Power Bikes. Now, this is a nice color display. It gives you all the basic information you need. It has a speedometer, the battery gauge, gives you the battery voltage, odometer, tripometer, pedal assist, and to toggle your pedal assist levels, you press up or down here. And by default, there are 3 levels of pedal assist. Now, guys, I'm going to get into some of the things I don't like about this display, and it's more or less, I think, a firmware update would fix all these issues. So by default, the battery gauge on this does not update in real time. So you'll be cruising along, it'll say you're at 100% battery, you put about 5 or 6 miles on, you're still at 100% battery. To get the real percentage, you'll have to turn off the bike and turn it back on, and then it'll update and give you the accurate battery reading. So get in the habit of turning your bike on and off every so often. Get to the real battery level. And the second thing, which is the most head-scratching feature on this entire bike, is the odometer and tripometer. As you can see now, it's already at 0, and that's because you can reset the odometer on this bike. That's right, folks, you heard that right. To do that, you go into the advanced setting here, hold up the plus and minus arrow at the same time, and it goes into your advanced settings menu. And you'll see down here at the bottom, you have an odometer reset option. So you go in here and you reset your odometer. There is no way to reset the tripometer on this bike without resetting the odometer as well. To me, that's no excuse. That makes no sense at all to me. And since we're in the advanced settings menu, let me show you the couple options I've changed. Most of the stuff is options I haven't messed with at all because I feel like there's no need. But here, this bike is shipped at full power, so you don't need to change any of that. Boost gear. If you go into boost gear, now this will give you the option to change how many levels of pedal assist you have. Now, I used to think this was kind of a useless option, but I do think there's actually a genuine purpose for this. So if you're riding with people, a group of people that are slower, but you can change to have more or less levels of pedal assist to kind of modulate how fast the bike will go. So if you have 9 levels of pedal assist, pedal assist level 4 might only go 25 miles an hour. So it makes it easier to match speeds with other riders. But I leave mine at 3. And the only other thing I changed on here was start strength. So if you go into start strength, by default, I believe this comes at 2 or 3. Change this to start strength 5 to give you full power right from the start. Other basic features on this bike are, this bike has headlights. So to toggle your headlights, you just press up or down on the switch. Up position is high beams, low position is low beams, middle is off. And this bike also has turn signals. To use your turn signals, you can press left or right here and it'll turn on your turn signals. Now, you may notice here, my turn signals are actually on backwards. And as a matter of fact, I even lost a subscriber over that. I think it looks better this way. And let's be honest, I don't actually use my turn signals. And if anyone needs to see which way I'm going, they're going to be behind me anyways. So you use your turn signals. It'll illuminate the front signal as well as the signal on your brake light, which illuminates whenever you use your brakes. And it also illuminates when you use your turn signals. And this bike also has a emergency flasher option. So you press this here, and it'll illuminate all your turn signals. It's pretty neat. And let's not forget, guys, this bike has one hell of a horn. It's one of my favorite features. All right, now that we've gone over all those boring specs and features, what do you say we go do the fun part and take this bad boy out for a ride? Come on, guys, let's get going. All right, guys, instead of doing my normal course, I want to show off what this bike is good at doing, and that is hauling ass. I'm going to be taking you along with me on my commute to the gym. This is a 6-mile trip, and I'm going to do this in real time. But before we get started, I have to do the obligatory pedal assist setting. So by default, there's 3 levels of pedal assist. Pedal assist 1 is eco mode, and it takes you up to, well, looks like 13 miles an hour. Pedal assist 2 will give you full power, but it'll only go up to 30 miles an hour. And pedal assist 3 gives you all the beans. As of right now, it is 8:32. Let's start our 6-mile trip. I like being in pedal assist 2 when I'm in neighborhoods like this. So I can get going 30, but I'm not gonna get going too fast to be a menace to society. And this bike gets no problem getting up to 30 miles an hour. It's not a struggle at all. A little brake check here. It's one of my favorite things to do on this bike, by the way, is the rear tire makes a nice screeching noise. It's pretty fun. Keeps people on their toes. Yeah, this bike is great for on-road, and it's great for getting places in a hurry, as you're about to see. Definitely not gonna trigger this light, so we're gonna live a little unrestricted. Guys, now we're gonna put it into full power mode, and let's get moving. This is a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit here, but I live in an area where people probably go around 60 here usually. We weren't going uphill, we were doing 35 uphill. Now we're doing 40, 42, 44. We're going downhill a little bit now, 45. Yeah, we're cooking, guys. We're catching up with traffic here. Man, this bike is fast. Oh, there's a red light, we better slow down. Now guys, I know, the tire squealing noise might not be for everyone, but I happen to think it's very funny. It's very fun to get people's reactions. So, you know, hey, maybe that's juvenile of me, but hey, I live unrestricted. So now we're back to being respectable citizens here in a residential zone. Yeah, this bike is fun. I always feel like I'm a Maverick from Top Gun riding around on this thing. It's great for leaning into these corners on asphalt, dipping all around. This bike fits the bill. This is a little motorcycle, and it feels like you're riding a little motorcycle. I've ridden a couple other moped-style e-bikes, and none of them were very fast. They do 28 miles an hour or so. This is the first one that looks the look and walks the walk. Flying. Stop here. These brakes, especially since I changed the brake pads, they bite really strong. So I'll leave the link for the parts I use in the description of this video if you're interested in doing it on your bike. The stock rotors were just not handling the heat and warped easy, like I mentioned, and especially the front rotor. I still have the stock rotor on the rear, but I think since it's in the rear and you're not getting as much heat in the rear, it hasn't been much of an issue. Man, we're just cooking right along, guys. And as you know, I love this. This is fun. I don't drive my truck to the gym anymore. I save a bunch of money on gas, and I have fun in the morning, getting the blood moving, getting a little bit of exercise. You get to explore your neighborhoods and find all sorts of things you never knew were there, such as this right here. Uh-oh, this is a dead end. Or is it? Secret passage here. Woo! Coming in hot. This is one of the things I mentioned. This battery gauge does not update in real time. Yeah, we've been hammering away at it, and we're still at 100%. And we'll be at 100% when I get to the gym still, which is clearly not going to be accurate. So like I said before, other bikes can do 30 miles an hour, 30, 35, but this bike lives at 30 or 35. It's no problem. A little bit of off-road here. You can do some off-road on this bike, guys, but the suspension is so stiff, it's really just not pleasant, and it feels like it's gonna rattle this battery right off. So I limit it to pretty much doing jumping off curbs. I wouldn't want to do any prolonged bumpy roads. Almost forgot we need to speed up. Let's go back to full power mode here. We're doing 40, 41, 42. Don't do it. There, test the horn there. The horn works fine. 44, 45. Slow down because we're going to cut through the park. That's what I love about these e-bikes, guys. You can take them wherever you want. Okay, we're gonna take it back down to pedal assist 2 here. Slow it down a little bit because we're gonna be going through a community park. Little shortcut here, unrestricted style. This bike is so quiet here. I have to, be careful coming up on people because half the time they have no idea I'm behind them. Okay, we're back on the road. Okay, we're going up this hill here. This is a fairly steep hill, and you'll see the motor goat's gonna have no problem with it at all. Because as soon as it starts getting like some resistance, this thing will just put out it's putting out 3,000 watts right now. I'm having no problem at all going up this hill. No problem at all. Guys, is your morning commute like this? Do you have fun on your morning commute, or do you sit in traffic and get frustrated and have elevated blood pressure? One thing I noticed too is this direct drive motor seems to freewheel like crazy. Like it seems like there's absolutely no resistance when you're going down hills on this bike. Morning. All right, now we are on to the 5-speed section. Let's get going, guys. Speed limit here is 40, but I'd have to say the average driver is probably doing 50, 55. Okay, we're already doing 40, 42. We're just gonna maintain this the whole way in. There he is. This bike is the perfect complement to your unrestricted lifestyle. So if you like hauling ass, this bike's for you. And in the town I live in, as long as you're pedaling, I don't think the cops are ever gonna do anything. They have so many other things to worry about, but that's gonna depend on where you live. We're flying, guys. Like I said, I ordered the additional battery for this bike as well. So I'm gonna be interested to see how far we can get range-wise. So I feel like with the 45 amp hours, you're gonna be able to do a pretty substantial rides on your motor goat. 45, baby. Oh, we got the green. I usually don't ride in this fast. I usually keep it in pedal assist 2, but for the purposes of this video, I wanted to demonstrate just how fast you can ride around, because we are almost at our destination, fellas, ladies and gentlemen. Uh-oh. All right, let's do a time check. 14 minutes. We just did 6 miles in 14 minutes, guys. That is pretty fast. All right, guys, we're gonna test the official 0 to 20 acceleration as well as the top speed on this strip here. So I actually am connected to my draggy. I have the motor goat set to 5 maximum strength from starting strength, and yeah, let's try it. Let's see how fast it goes. And we're off. No pedaling here, throttle only, 20 miles an hour. Looks like I did a 5.24 second 0 to 20 there. The only other bike I've tested this officially on is the Wired Cruiser, and that did a 5.34 0 to 20. So as of right now, the Motor Goat V3 is at 5.24, top of the food chain. So guys, I just came out. I have an absolutely full battery right now, so that should give you a representative best case scenario, 5.24 seconds, 0 to 20, and for reference, I weigh 245 pounds right around, so that's pretty quick. So there you have it, guys. It's the Motor Goat V3. As of right now, this is one of my favorite bikes, and this is the one I find myself riding the most lately. It's mainly because this is just a great option for commuting. Some things I really love about this bike, for starters, locking up that rear tire and scaring people is just too much fun. It's almost worth the price of entry alone. It comes with a large 1500 watt-hour battery, which I was able to get 38 miles with on my range test. I really like the direct drive motor. It's a smooth, comfortable experience, and this bike is fast. So some things I'm not too fond of with this bike. Number one, the fact that you can reset the odometer and you can't reset the tripometer, it just boggles my mind. The battery gauge doesn't update in real time, which can be quite annoying. The brakes themselves grab really well. However, I believe the stock rotors are just not very good quality, and they tend to warp pretty easily, which causes excess brake noise and excess brake wear. So, like I said, I did swap out my front rotor and both sets of pads. And it's bringing me to one other thing. The rear of this bike is hard to service because there's no serviceable link in the power cable to the rear motor. and the dropout is just really hard to line the thing back up. So I was unable to replace the rear rotor on this bike. However, I can. It's just going to be a lot more work than I was mentally prepared to do at the time. But all in all, guys, I really love this bike. I like this bike enough that I got the additional battery, and I'm looking forward to doing some range tests and doing some more longer rides on this bike. Guys, if you're interested in purchasing a MotoGo for yourself, you can use the link in the description of this video. Use coupon code SHOOTTHECHIT to save yourself 5% on your order. That being said, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and to stay unrestricted.